is up, RotoGrinders? Happy Monday. It is a nine-gamer in the association right now. 2 hours nonstop NBA DFS conversation taking y'all straight up the lock, 7 o'clock on the East Coast. Do not adjust your interweb TVs. I cut myself shaving if you're staring at my face. Yeah, that was one of the reasons why I was a little bit late. My apologies, a little bit flustered here. Nine-gamer, we are dropping off the last game for savings. No Minnesota, no Clippers. 9 games, only one team in the front end of a back-to-back. That is the Bucks. Nobody played yesterday. Yesterday, of course, was a short slate, just a couple games going down yesterday in the association because football dominated that landscape. Speaking of which, Will, you said you had a good big game yesterday. We could touch on it for sure. Obviously, it's a 9-gamer, so only so much time for pleasantries, but what an amazing Super Bowl. It was, I said it. It's post-date, though, right? It's okay. We're going to be all right. Are we still on the air? Did somebody push the button? My apologies, but yeah, Will, what is your takeaway from the big game? Any knee-jerk reactions, thoughts?
I almost had a monstrosity of a big game in terms of earnings. Now listen, I had a fantastic Sunday. I probably missed out on 7. I would say 12K minimum on a few things that did not break my way, like Christian McCaffrey rushing attempts. I took less than 19.5, and the Chiefs had them stopped in overtime and got that penalty, and that carried them over. If they got that stop, we were about home free. That one was a $7,000 swing right there. And then I had a couple other things paired up that didn't come to fruition. So that's what I'm saying. Minimum somewhere around, 12K probably minimum. But guess what, Dean? That's okay. I had some stuff going on the side. Made a hefty number. With some big game stuff going on the side. So it ended up being a huge day for the Chief household, and so some of that's going to get spent because obviously I got to pay taxes and not taxes from last year. I'm saying get ready for taxes for next year already, and this Chief wants a new car, so some of that's gone. I'm going to the dealership tomorrow, but all in all, it's okay. Like this is why I love this business, Dean. I get to go to the dealership on my terms. Right? Like I don't have to go there and haggle with them about whether I'm going to find someone to do it at 5% or 3% or 1.9%. I don't have to haggle with them. I'm going to the dealership. I'm saying, hey, this is what I want. Do you have it? If you don't, I'll move on to the next dealership until you have what I want. And I'll go to the bank and cut them a check and drive over there and take it to them and drive out with the car. That's the beauty of this business, man. If you know how to take care of your money and stack it up and put it away for a rainy day, you can do some really cool things. And so I didn't think we would start the show like that, but I wish that for everybody that's in DFS or that's been doing it. Like when you get that big payday, don't be an idiot. If your first big hit is $50,000, take it all out, pay your taxes, and sit on it and maybe you invest it, maybe you don't. I'm an advocate of investing, but even if you don't, like sit on it. Interest rates in your God, I didn't mean to take this to a financial conversation, but interest rates are much better right now. Anyway, in a lot of these savings accounts, at least they're giving, 4.5. In some places, if you can find some of the online banks, they'll probably give you a little bit more than that. But at least you'll be getting something back. But you're paying a lot more in interest for your houses and your cars as well. So that's the relationship we have between the interest rates right now. But even still, save that money, man, and get you another hit, and you'll be on the way to financial freedom. And I'm just going to cut that off, Dean. I'm going down a rabbit hole. What a way to open the show!
I feel like I'm just doing a podcast on how to buy a car.
What a way to open the show!
Head.
I'm still a little bit hoarse.
I'm going to go to that vending machine and order me all right. Chief Bo, speaking of your household, shout out to your son. I saw his mixtape on the Twitter. That was really cool. Your
Oh
son's a
yeah,
mixtape for basketball. Yeah, well, I was watching his highlights. Yeah,
that's some of his clips. I don't even have his best game he had in the season. Like none of those clips are even in there. So like, we'll put together another one. He wants to go play ball at college, so hopefully that comes into fruition. He's a really good shooter, which will help him in today's game. I mean, he's got pretty good range too. Like I don't know if you saw some of those. He's a couple feet behind the line.
How tall is he?
He's 6 feet.
All right, but he's still like 15, right?
16. He probably needs to. If he was 6'4", like he'd probably be, he'd probably be about ready to go D1. But we're gonna be realistic and look D2. He can play some point too. He plays 1 through 3 in high school. So, but he's probably there. I don't know. They got like 3 really good shooters, and he's one of them on that team, and one of them's graduating. So, next year he's gonna be bombs away. But we're gonna hopefully he'll get rolling. But yeah, man, he's a really good little player, and I'm super proud of him. Hopefully he keeps playing and getting better. Got to get better every day.
Let's bring in TJ as well. TJ, any thoughts as far as Sunday? Yeah, we should have that for the poll, by the way. I see Derek is asking. I don't like the way he's framing that. He says the poll question should be Usher or the halftime show, good, bad, or horrible. No, that's not the way you should ask. Like good, bad, or somewhere in the middle. I think, good, bad, and horrible are the same thing. But TJ, I don't even know, did you pay attention to the big game? Because you're just too busy crushing the NHL streets. Congratulations to you. Another big hockey day for you. I guess it was a couple days ago, but the money is still fresh. Congratulations on that. If you got anything as far as football-wise, by all means, fire it off. Did you have a thought as far as the halftime show? I thought it was really good. It was much better than I expected. I thought it was a lot fun. It was a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed it. But your thoughts?
Yeah, it was great. The only real issue is that Usher's mic was a little too quiet. You could barely hear him some of the time. And I think it would have been better if they either turned the music down a bit or turn the mic up a little bit, get that mixing a little bit higher quality. But performance itself was fine. It was good. It was great. Nothing that's like to write home about. There was nothing spectacular, nothing that you're really going to remember next year. But it was good enough. The Ludacris and Lil Jon showing up was a lot of fun at the end there. So. Yeah, I about broke even yesterday for the big game, so pretty uneventful day. Like Chief, I was very close to some big things, but didn't quite land, and so still an enjoyable enough evening. Like you said, yeah, NHL's been going really well lately, and looking forward to continuing it for NBA tonight. DraftKings has some interesting new contests tonight, and so that's pretty fun. Let's looking forward to diving into it. Chief, when we were on GrindersLive last week, do you remember specifically what it was that you were giving me such a hard time about? I'll give you a hint. It was about drinks.
Oh, yes. You needed to try Body Armor. Please let me know how you like it.
So I still haven't yet, but here it is.
Oh,
here
man.
It is, right here.
Are we going to get a live reaction?
A live reaction, my very first Body Armor trying, and so
listen,
here it is.
TJ had to make a few more NHL winnings.
What flavor, TJ?
Is that fruit
punch? I got fruit punch.
Punch. That's good. That's a good start.
That's the chalk.
Fruit punch and tropical punch were the two kinds I got. I got the 12 packs.
That's
okay.
I
better like them because I got the 12 packs.
That's all right. Here we go. Live reaction, folks. Live reaction.
It's delightful.
Yes, delightful. Folks, we got TJ on the Body Armor. Now, listen, that doesn't mean he's got to drink it every day, but I do like Body Armor. I do like it. One of my favorites.
All right. Big boy slate. Let's get into it. What's up, Jack? Hit that like
good.
button. Do subscribe. What's up, Chief? What's going on?
I said, we'll be good with this slate.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's not a lot up in the air, which is kind of surprising. Again, it's almost every single team is playing on an island game. Didn't play yesterday, not playing tomorrow, with the exception of Milwaukee. Minnesota plays tomorrow. We don't care about Minnesota. Halliburton's officially questionable, but I would be shocked if he didn't play. They've been giving this Q's tag, going forward. Luka's still good to go with his nose. I'm expecting Zion to come back and play tonight. Şengün, I think, is one of the more important pieces. He's officially questionable.
Yeah.
Hartenstein's questionable, but I would be really surprised if he plays. Some of these guys that are like questionable to doubtful, I think they just sort of like let him rest until the All-Star break. The closer we get to the All-Star break, we'll see. We'll get some news coming in. I was looking for if-then stuff. We didn't have anything ready right before the show started, but it's probably right on the time. Right about now, well, there's nothing there just yet, but I imagine that we drop in some things. Maybe we'll get a Şengün if-then on this slate. But TJ, you want to give us the overview? What are we looking at as far as tonight? I ran some optimals pre-show. Some interesting names popping in there. Uncomfortable names. On DK, I have a lot of Jazz, which I don't like. I think it's way too much Jazz for my liking. Now they did cut down the rotation a little bit last time. I think they actually went to 9 guys. They have that general rule where they play 10. That doesn't mean that it's going to stay that way. TJ, your general overview as far as the slate. We have a lot of fabulous players. Luka against Washington, not matchup. It's not how much he smashes, it's how long he's allowed to smash. How do they pull away from Washington? If not, he should just absolutely annihilate. He should pummel. And then Giannis versus the Joker. Neither is a great matchup, but they're also basically matchup proof. What do you got here, TJ? What are you looking at when it comes to the old slate overview?
So it's a 9-game slate, but I feel like I can make it quite a bit smaller than that, especially if some of the injury news comes our way the way I think it's going to, and some of these questionable guys ends up playing. I think there's a few of these teams that I can basically just cross right off the list. Maybe not full games completely, but I think a few of them I can just X out. A few teams I can X out completely, and then focus more on a couple of these games, like obviously a super high total close spread in Washington and in Utah and Golden State, super high total in Washington and Dallas, and then another big one here to start the slate with Indiana and Charlotte. So some fun game stacks, and then a couple other of these games I feel like I can just completely ignore.
I kind of feel the same way. It feels like the slate is smaller than 9 games, and we'll kind of figure that out as we go along. Of course, some news can come in and things can get changed up. The slate can absolutely be flipped on its head. Will, your thoughts before we kind of dive in and break it down game by game? Anything you want to say overview-wise?
Just in terms of overview for me, I think we have some really interesting games where we can take sides from both games in builds. Excuse me. And I think I told you, I am a little bit hoarse, so please bear with me. I'm much better today than I was yesterday. TJ can vouch for that. But, I'm not into having to stack a game every day. Like, that's not something you have to do. But I do think today, Dean, we have some really interesting spots for the prices, right? I think there's some, especially on DraftKings, with them being a lot looser than they have been all season. Well, they've been pretty loose for the past 3 weeks now. But my point is, I think there are game specific, 2 here, 1 there, 3 here, 1 there that we can utilize today. Some really interesting spots. One that I love in particular that I think could really pop here. So that's kind of my overview. Because we really only have, 2 studs, two really big studs on the slate that I consider, guys that could be slate breakers. Outside of that,
who are the 2? Because there's Luka, there's Joker, and there's Giannis. Which one of those is not one of those guys?
Okay, so for me,
Giannis.
No,
really?
Giannis is in for me. No Middleton competitive game, probably going to play 38, 40 minutes. Looks like Doc is unleashing him. So Giannis makes the cut for me. Luka, actually, I think he's fine. It would be Giannis and Jokic for me today. Nothing against Luka. They're playing Washington. I think that's the one game that could blow out. That's all it is for me, if that makes any sense.
Did you disagree, TJ?
I don't. I'm going to prioritize Giannis a lot less than Jokic and Doncic. Just while obviously, especially in tournaments, projections is definitely not everything. It's such a big pace down spot for Milwaukee in comparison to these other 2 teams. Big pace up spots for Dallas and for Denver. And so that's what makes me have a little bit more interest in them. It's only a $300 difference between Giannis and Doncic, but almost an 11 an 11-point projection difference. Now, if I think he'll be higher owned than this, obviously, like this is fluid and it's subject to change. But if Giannis is only going to actually be 2% owned, which is what we're projecting right now, I will definitely be overweight.
Yeah, so our ownership stuff is as of 4:30 on the East Coast. We just got an update when it comes to projections, but I was looking at as well. Luka 20%, Joker 11%, Giannis at 2%, DK specific. Like, okay, I think it makes sense to play some Giannis. And I know he's had some down games, but you can kind of like excuse him away for different reasons, mostly blowouts.
Right.
By the way, the one positive, Will, of your voice, your Doc impression might get even better. Your Doc Rivers impression, that's one positive you can make when it comes to maybe we'll cue that up later on. We'll see how that works out, but let's do it. Let's go game by game. The very first game we're going to talk about is the Pacers and Will's horrific Charlotte Hornets. 238 is the total. Indiana is but a 9-point favorite here in Charlotte. Halliburton officially questionable. I don't really believe that. I think he plays, but we'll see. Jalen Smith is out. I think they said he's out until the All-Star break. Which makes, I guess, Isaiah Jackson playable as a cheapie. Necktat James Johnson also questionable with an illness. As far as Charlotte, Cody Martin's going to play. LaMelo, are they just shutting him down, Will? This nonsense in Charlotte, they might just shut him down for the entire season. And then they also kicked Leaky Black is in the G League, and Nick Smith, I think, is in the G League, right? Both those guys were booted to the G League. Yeah. By the way, their first game looked pretty good, and obviously it's small sample stuff, but the crowd was excited, and their second unit played really, really well, and it actually hampered Miller and Bridges as far as their usage, and I think Miller lost a bunch of minutes there in the first half because the second unit was cooking as far as, guys like Davis Bertans, and we're not rostering them, but just it was frustrating if you had yourself some Miller just chilling on the bench because the second unit was playing great. Micic was another guy who was playing really well, and even Grant Williams looked pretty good as well. But your takeaways, Will, when it comes to your Hornets after day one of the what they get 5 new pieces, I believe, and thoughts as far as tonight. Of course, the matchup versus Indiana is appealing.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually didn't get a chance to watch that game, so I can't really tell you how they looked actually from a fan perspective. I am going to try to put my eyes on this game tonight and just kind of see how they handle the rotations, because it looks to me like, excuse me, it looks to me like these new pieces are going to get some minutes. Like Trey Mann's going to get minutes. Grant Williams looks like he's going to get minutes. You talked about Micic. He's probably going to get minutes. Seth Curry played 20 minutes. So I think these guys are going to get some minutes. I want to see who settles into the real minutes, though, Dean. Like, is Grant Williams going to be a guy that plays 28 minutes a game? If so, then I do think we can lean into that uncertainty today for what it's worth in tournaments. I think playing Trey Mann is going to be fine regardless. This should be a good spot for him. I want to play some Grant Williams today in tournaments and see how it goes. Playing some Micic. I think, like I said, leaning into a lot of these cheap pieces in tournaments to me, and even Brandon Miller, I think is a great deal or a great idea today. And just split them up. Obviously, we don't want to be overloading ourselves with Hornets, too many Hornets in one lineup. But I do think taking a piece here and there and playing them is a great strategy. In terms of Indiana, we know that Charlotte's awful. With Halliburton back, I do think Pascal Siakam is one of the best tournament plays on the slate. We really don't have a whole lot of ownership on him right now. At 7,900, this is a spot that he should be able to dominate, get up and down the floor, be able to put some points in the bucket, and possibly pick up a few peripherals as well in both categories. So really like him. I think he's one of the best plays on the slate. Don't hate Halliburton, but I'm not rushing to roster him. He could, have a nice upside game today. But I'm going to temper my expectations with him with that lingering injury that he's just playing through, in my opinion, to make sure he gets his $41 million. And I don't think that's a secret. I think everybody knows he wants to play his 20-plus minutes a game to make sure he can maximize that contract. Benedict Mathurin at 4,800, I think is fine, coming off the bench. And then you've got Isaiah Jackson, who's picking up some steam here. I think we got him around – he's 20+% right now, Dean, at 3,500.
At 16 minutes, which is so weird. I get he's a great fantasy equipment player, but that's just odd.
Yeah, but that's I get it. Might be a little bit too steep for my blood. If he goes up for 25 fantasy points, guess what, D? I live with that at 3,500. Like, I think I can overcome that if he's going to play limited minutes. That's how I feel about the Pacers Hornets game today.
By the way, Will, cool guy Bobby says Brandon Miller, aka the Witness. I've never heard that nickname before. Did he just make one up? That's a made up nickname, right? That's not his nickname, is it? The Witness? I haven't heard that. I listen to the Charlotte broadcast sometimes.
Yeah,
pretty fun broadcast, by the way.
Listen, the Hornets broadcast it's amazing. And it's been good for a while. It's been good for a while, but at any rate, the Witness, interesting.
It's a joke. I'm missing the joke. Okay. I didn't know. I don't know his backstory. Okay, so apparently there was a backstory where he witnessed something go terribly wrong.
Yeah. Never mind.
Okay, so I didn't. I fell right for that. Was not aware. I actually Googled this and it didn't pop up. So you got me, Bobby. What's up, TJ? What do you got as far as Charlotte and Indiana? Yeah, the Halliburton thing. I guess he's going to get 30 minutes or so. They're not going to push it beyond that, but even in 30, I think he can get there. The price has dropped a little bit. I've been betting him over on assists like 7.5 and 8.5, but they finally caught up with it in the sports books. I think it's 11.5 now or 10.5. So that they finally realized that they were just too low. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to get there, but certainly you can tell yourself a story. What's interesting, TJ, is that Miles Turner, 18%, Mitchich is getting 11%. I'm not certain how solidified those minutes are. Again, we just saw one example. Trey Mann is getting no ownership now, and I think he's kind of good. And he was just buried on OKC. He bet on himself too. Basically, he asked for a trade. He's because he was getting no run there because OKC is really good, and now he's got an opportunity. So I think he's interesting too. But your take here, especially if he's going to be solo owned. I know Mann was super owned last time out. He almost got the old double. I think he had 9 and 9, if I'm not mistaken. But jump in here, TJ. Good matchup here, Indiana and Charlotte.
So on the Indiana side, I'm actually a lot more interested in the cheap bench guys than I am the starters. I'm not playing Halliburton. I think Siakam's fine for tournaments. I think Turner is fine. The mid-range guys are fine, but the guys I think I'm most interested in playing with Indiana being 10-point favorites here is Isaiah Jackson and TJ McConnell. If those 16, 17, 18 minutes we have projected for the two of them turn into 22, 23, 24 minutes, that's slate breaking upside for the two of them at their prices. So I love the idea of pairing them together, playing this game like it's going to be a blowout. We got Charlotte wanting to lose. We got Indiana wanting to win. A good team against a bad team. I think it all lines up for Indiana to handle this game quite easily. And I really like the idea of loading up on the bench players like TJ McConnell and Isaiah Jackson. And I'm running 150 today. We got some nice contests on DraftKings. There's some mini maxes, but also they have a $4 150 max 100K to first today. So I'm going to MME that one as well. And I'm going to look to stack these Indiana bench guys together. And I'll look to play the Mitchiches on the other side with those lineups because he'll probably get extended time in a blowout as well. So I think there's a really nice game stack that lends itself to that. I love the Trey Mann call. I'll get some Cody Martin and Nick Richards at low ownership as well. Brandon Miller coming in at super low projected ownership. This is one of my favorite games on the slate, and I'm going to be getting to a lot of it on both sides.
And you're okay, 7 o'clock, locking in a bunch of spots. So that's one of my hesitations because stuff might change. It might not, but stuff might.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. No problem to me. I'll do it.
Martin, they're keeping his minutes down. I guess 28 looks like the cap. That's what we're projecting him for. He's dealing with, I think it's a knee he's dealing with. They're not going to push him too hard, but if you get 28 minutes versus Indiana, I think he's in play as well. We shall move on. The other 7 o'clock game is Philadelphia at Cleveland. 2:30 is the total. This could potentially get ugly. Cleveland is an 11-point home favorite here. They're fully healthy with the exception of Dean Wade, who's currently questionable. He had an illness. We know about Embiid obviously being out. We know Covington and Melton, Batum. But Harris, a midday downgrade. Tobias Harris has a hip.
He's out.
So he's questionable.
He's out.
Oh, did that just happen or I missed that?
Yeah. It just happened.
Okay. All right. Literally just happened. Okay. So I thought I missed something. Good call there, TJ. I'm like, wait a second. I try to stay on top of this stuff. Mo Bamba is in. Okay, Bamba in, Harris out. Should we pass on this game and come back for wait for projections to change? What do you think, TJ?
No, I think if we start on the Cleveland side of things, I will probably get an update here quick enough on that one. And on the Cleveland side, like to me, this is one of the more skippable games on the slate. Philly going up against the Cleveland defense, even with guys out, I think everybody's been priced up to a point that I don't think I really need to get there. And then on the Cleveland side of things, like they're healthy now too. And so unless Evan Mobley and Darius Garland are going to start playing 34 plus minutes again, I don't need to go there. And so the only guys I really have interest in on the Cleveland side of things are Donovan Mitchell and Jared Allen. For Philly, I don't really think this is going to matter enough to give us anything. Like, yeah, KJ Martin maybe gets mid 20 minutes now and he'll maybe be okay. Paul Reed, Oubre, and Hield would be the ones that interest me the most, but they're all up 6K and above now, so I don't really think I need them.
Yeah, the threat of a blowout certainly looms. I was just trying to bet Cleveland and I was not fast enough. I got to imagine that line's going to jump like 12 or so. By the way, if you got in early on the squad rides, RotoGrinders.com/Discord squad rides, it's free. STL cards recommended today's pick, which was Charlie's pick on Scores and Odds. Philadelphia to score under 110.5 points, which I feel looks really good. I like that bet a lot. It's probably going to be lower than that now with Harris being ruled out. Tough matchup, and they're without like all their offensive players with the absence of Maxey. If this game does stay close, Maxey probably is going to project really, really well. But again, threat of a blowout. Hield's another guy. Well, he's all the way up to 7-1. Jeez, life comes at you fast. Yeah, it's tough. Well, what do you got here as far as Cleveland and Philly? Just sort of, I mean, you never really know how these things turn out, but it certainly feels like Cleveland's going to give them a shellacking.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're both NBA teams, but I definitely think Cleveland is able to take care of business here. They've been playing really well. So for me, I'm kind of out on this game. I will say this. I do still like Buddy Hield somewhat. He's just getting up so many shot attempts right now with this new team. And perhaps he still gets up enough, but I don't feel like I have to at this point, Dean. I think they need to be mostly healthy. I think losing Tobias will hurt them today. So, yeah, I think I'm out on this game in general. I think I'm just out.
Dean Wade, by the way, officially ruled out. I don't think that matters a ton. Maybe a guy like Niang would get a little bit more run in a blowout. I mean, they don't have a lot of bodies. Looks like they have 10.
I just made a rule that says I will only play Buddy Hield in lineups that have Jared Allen or Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, I like that call. Do you have a Maxey rule?
He wasn't actually even in my pool. I'm going to wait and see what his projection is.
He's going to jump. Like, he's going to project well. I mean, you, as a median projection, and even as a ceiling projection, I think he is at least. He's pretty expensive still. I'm curious where he projects. Well, we'll see. Oh, it's the Niang revenge game, according to Vegan. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. By the way, also want to mention in the chat, shout out to Ryan Painter. I think Roth was the one that kind of like started this conversation on Friday, asking all of us our favorite picks. He says, for the big game, he said, I took y'all's picks except for the Brock Purdy attempts because they had lowered it to 30.5. And good call, Ryan. That was my pick. And it was a winner until they went to overtime. Then he went over. But he put $20 on all the things we recommended and turned it into $476. Just dropping my one thing. The reason why he dropped it was because, again, the line dropped from 32.5 to 30.5. Shout out to Ryan. Good job. That's some pretty impressive ROI. Oh, yeah, but should we mention Ricky Council the fourth? He got a ton of run last game, and he would certainly mop up. This thing got ugly. The problem is his price jump, right? Ricky Council the fourth is 5.1K, Will, which is that's on FanDuel. He's 4K on DK. He might project well. I'm curious if he get an update soon. Maybe we'll circle back here, but I think he's a guy that could be interesting with Harris being ruled out, and he had a heck of a game last time out. They gave him a ton of run at least. Yeah, curious to see where that stuff lands, where it projects. We'll circle back, but Will, anything else? Final thoughts when it comes to Philly and Cleveland?
No, I think I'm good. Like I said, I'm mostly out on this game. I don't hate the call at 4K. I mean, he got running a block last time, or shoot, not necessarily running a block, but run the last time anyway. With Tobias being out, could definitely see him getting some extra run here. But all in all, I'm out on this game.
All right. I'm anxious to circle back and see where our projections land because I think we're going to have some stuff popping and then got to make some interesting calls. But we'll see.
I think it just did.
Okay. Well, can you see it? Is there anything that looks noteworthy? Yeah. Okay.
I just refreshed now because we got the removal.
Can I clear something up here real quick?
It has not. Sorry, it has not updated yet. They just took those guys out.
Butthole said that he got more run than Paul Reed. I will say this: Jared Allen and Evan Mobley are going to play, so I wouldn't read too much into that. I think in the last game the game went small, and so that's why Council got even more run in that particular game, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they were playing.
Yeah, Bagley was kicked off the court too.
Yeah,
Washington was playing small.
Right. So I wouldn't read too much into that one. If Jared Allen's on the floor and Mobley's on the floor, I think Paul Reed's going to get his minutes today for what it's worth. Just wanted to give you that little tidbit, Butthole, just in case.
I love that. Like we just say, yeah, Butthole said this, and it's like it's a totally normal sentence. Shout out to Butthole in chat. Chicago's taking on the Hawks. Really, really good atmosphere. Any game against Atlanta. 238 is the total. Chicago 3-point dogs here. As far as who is in, who is out. For Atlanta, Patty Mills is doubtful. Who cares? Wesley Matthews is also out. Doesn't matter. Griffin out. Doesn't matter. But Capella out. That certainly matters. We've seen Okongwu draw on the start more so of late. His price now is all the way baked up to 7.4K on FanDuel. That's a big boy number for sure. The Bulls, they are pretty clean. Caruso officially is questionable with that toe. We know Patrick Williams, he might be out for the season, out for a while, hanging out with Zach LaVine. We've seen a ton of big boy, double big boy for Chicago. Drummond playing alongside of Vuk. I don't know if that happens a ton here against Atlanta, but just sort of noting it. It's obviously that happened against Minnesota, but also happened in their last game too. But Drummond was pretty handsy, but for a while that seemed like the plan to run those guys side by side. Will, I'll let you kick this one off here. Chicago versus Atlanta. What do you got here? Good game environment.
This is absolutely my favorite game on the slate. I talked about games, and Charlotte was definitely one of those games where I think you could take a Trey Mann and a Grant Williams played on the other side of a Pascal Siakam, that type of deal. This Chicago Atlanta game, I love this game. Should be competitive. From my perspective, I think you can take Kobe White and an Ayo Dosunmu and run that on the other side of a DeJounte Murray. You could take a DeMar DeRozan and a Nikola Vucevic, run that on the other side of a Jalen Johnson. You could take, Kobe White, Nikola Vucevic, run that on the other side of a Trae Young. I think this game and the opportunities we're going to see in this game should help us really get some good fantasy results here. I like the pricing. Once again, Kobe White 7,500, DeMar 76, Vucevic 79. I wrote this team up today in my Best of Both Worlds article. Definitely think that this is one of the premier spots of the day. And these mid-range Bulls, White, DeRozan, Vucevic, and then Dosunmu we'll consider him value, but those four guys I think present tremendous opportunity. And then on the other side, like I said, you got Jalen Johnson, DeJounte, and Trey. Okongwu is priced where he should be now because of the spot, right? But I think if you want to get him in, just in terms of on the other side for a game stack, I don't hate it, but he's not a top priority. Jalen Johnson, DeJounte, Trey, those are definitely top priorities for me in this spot. Atlanta at home, going to be a fast-paced game. Atlanta still tops of the league in pace, bottom of the league in defensive efficiency. The Bulls should be able to put up some fantasy production tonight.
Can you rank White, DeRozan, Vuk?
Yeah, give me White, Vuk, DeRozan. Just in terms of upside, I think DeRozan is there with the best of them today for what it's worth. But I do think White has a little bit more upside than DeRozan right now.
That's where I'm at too. But they all project pretty well. TJ, what do you got here? Bulls, Atlanta. Any kind of rules you got?
In terms of rules, I'll probably go. Well, I think I'll probably just do a max 2 from this team for Chicago, maybe a max 3. If I do a max 3, I will limit Vucevic and Drummond to 1 per lineup. I'll limit it to Sunu and Caruso to 1 per lineup, and then I'll do a max 2 of DeRozan, White, and Vucevic. But I agree with Chief, exact same order: White, Vucevic, DeRozan. I agree with Chief with the Atlanta guys: Jalen Johnson, DeJounte Murray, Trae Young. Those are the only priorities. But I will also have Caruso, who participated in shoot around, so I think he's going to play, and Andre Drummond in my pool as well.
By the way, our poll in chat, we've learned nothing. Did you enjoy the halftime show? 51% yes, 49% no. So we're divided. Yes. Keep voting. And while you're clicking that, hey, how about you click the like button? Hit that like button. Do subscribe. Turn on those notifications. Help us keep the lights on. We do appreciate that. Stick around all the way up to 7 o'clock. You got crunch time coming in at around 6:20 or so. Kevin Roth, TastefulTides Tim. And who else is coming in? Do we know who else is coming in? I might have missed. Is it Keith? Is it Keith Eyster? I feel like it's Keith. Could be wrong here. It's somebody else that's super, super sharp. It is Keith Eyster. All right. We're moving on. And we're going to circle back to Philadelphia in just a second. I want to see if anything changed as far as projections dramatically. San Antonio, the Spurs, they're in Toronto. 237 is the total. They're 6-point dogs here at Toronto as far as who's in and who's out when it comes to this one. San Antonio, they're perfectly clean, all good to go. Of course, Charles Bassey is out for the season. No reason to mention him. And Toronto, TJ, your Raptors, perfectly clean, all good to go. Everybody is healthy. We saw Kelly O get some run last time. Yeah, is this a game we're interested in? Like, it's a good environment whenever you have the Spurs. Toronto's been weaker defensively in the absence of some of the parts they traded away. But everybody's healthy, which is never fun. I mean, not that you're rooting for injury, but you know what I'm saying, for our purposes. But, yeah, TJ, your Raptors, your Spurs, what do you got?
Both sides of this game, I think, are very interesting. You got Wemby, Vassell, Jones, and Keldon Johnson on the other side. On the Spurs side of things that I think are all very appropriately priced. The Raptors have been one of the very worst defensive teams in basketball since their trades. So keep loading up teams against them. And today, that's the Spurs. For Toronto, their prices are going down because they don't stay in games long enough for them to perform well because they keep getting blown out. But now they're actual favorites. They're playing at home against the Spurs. I think Barnes, Barrett, Quickly are all underpriced and really strong plays. I think Jakob Poeltl going up against his former team is a strong play. And then Kelly Olynyk and Gary Trent as well as some salary savers, both very much on the table in this one. I won a fair amount of both these teams today.
Do you think Poeltl kind of mirrors Wemby as far as minutes? I'm trying to think. The arrival of Kelly O, I think, hurts them a tick. They can go like small ball 5. Your thoughts on that?
I don't think that'll necessarily be the case. I think they're both probably just going to play their normal rotations. Like Poeltl's a guy that likes to stick underneath the hoop, right? He's not a big he's not like, I don't think they are going to need him on Wemby because I don't necessarily think Olynyk would be that much worse. So I think they probably just both play their normal rotations.
Who's your favorite player from this game?
I don't know. I don't have a firm answer for you because for Toronto, it could be any of the three. It could be Barnes, Barrett, and Quickly. I like all three of them pretty equally. It's kind of like a White, Vucevic, DeRozan situation for me. And on the Spurs side of things, it's for raw points, it's definitely Wemby, and then for point per dollar, it's Vassell.
Yeah, I think mine's Quickly for factoring everything in. Obviously, raw points. Scotty Barnes probably the guy that scores the most raw points, but when you consider price and all that, I feel pretty good about Quickly. I like the matchup as well. Will, what do you got?
Will is gone. He is. I think it must have been an internet issue or something. But we're down to 2 squares now.
It's an intimate show now. It's just the two of us. Hopefully, we get Will back in just a second. I did hit. I refreshed the old lineup HQ. I think we have our projections changing for Philly. Does anything really matter here? Maxey now projects for 43.5 as a median score at 9.3. So he's not really going to pop. He's going to be playable. I guess nobody really is not really. Campaign might be interesting if the game blows out. Ricky Council would get as an 18-point projection at 4K, 25 minutes. And again, if you want to bet on the blowout, he'd probably grab a few extra minutes. KJ Martin, if he can stay out of foul trouble, is another guy that looks kind of sort of somewhat interesting, also 4K. Anything there that looks worth talking about?
We do have Will back now.
Okay. Yeah. But did you have anything as far as Philly, TJ? Since
No,
Steve brought
nothing
it up?
else. Like, I still don't really want to get to these guys. Like, maybe I'll get to a little Maxi Healed or Council, but I'll do a Max 1 Philadelphia player. And I'm not really looking to get to these guys.
David in chat's asking about Bamba. Like, they just only play Bamba so many minutes. I wouldn't play him with Reed. If you're putting in rules, I would play a Max 1 of those two guys. You know, he's also a guy that I don't think will play a ton of blowout minutes, maybe, but not a ton, just because, you know, he's had a history of injuries. I don't know why I couldn't quite get there in my head, but yeah. Will, anything you want to say as far as, you know, we circle back to Philadelphia just briefly. Otherwise, feel free to knock out the Spurs and Toronto. Welcome back.
Yeah, Mr. George just hit the nail on the head. He's in South Carolina with me, and it's storming like crazy here. So my internet kind of crapped out here. So what I did, I switched to my mobile hotspot on my phone. So that should carry us the rest of the way. So I'm not on my Wi-Fi because it's been storming all day. So it is pretty rough here. I'm in Charleston, but Dean, you know where I am because you used to live here.
I know. Yeah.
So yeah, it's crazy right now. But anyway, we're talking San Antonio, Toronto, correct? Just making sure.
Yes.
Yeah, I do like this game as well. We've seen the Toronto Raptors not really be great at defense since all of the trades. Going to start there. I really like RJ Barrett today at 7K. Like, he's one of my favorite tournament plays of the day. Really like him. He's been very productive that's heading to Toronto. So he's a guy where in that mid-range, he could get you 45 fantasy points. And, you know, if you've got enough of those today, Dean, you could really make some noise in tournaments. Like him, like quickly. I'm okay with Poto, but RJ Barrett is absolutely my target on the Toronto Raptors. For the Spurs, Victor Wembanyama, man, he just keeps breaking the mold, Dean. He's not going to play past 30 minutes, but he's probably going to give you 50 fantasy points, and I'm more than willing to accept that at 8,900 on DraftKings. So he's another favorite of mine on today's slate. I don't hate Vassell. I don't hate Trey Jones. This should be a game where they can get up and down. And then Keldon Johnson at 5,600 coming off the bench. I don't mind him either. I like this game in general. You know, both teams or the Spurs are going to push the pace a little bit. Raptors not playing great defense. And so you've kind of got this little these interesting pairings that you can use. And I'm not saying you have to play Barrett with Wembanyama. I'm not saying you have to. I may end up with a little bit of that, but I really, really, really like this game as well and those pieces that we discussed.
All right, let's move on. Potential finals, maybe? I don't know. We'll see. Denver, Milwaukee. I don't know if Milwaukee's getting past Boston, but Boston has a history of hiccuping. 230 is the total. Milwaukee is a 1-point dog here at home versus the defending champions. Denver, Michael Porter Jr. officially questionable. No, he's probable. He was late scraps last game. KCP, he is questionable with his hamstring. Giannis, good to go, or I should say officially probable. Every once in a while, Milwaukee does something goofy with their probables, but I'm assuming he's going to play, as is Lillard. Chris Middleton, I think they said he's out at least through the All-Star break. TJ, I'll let you get us started here. Of course, the studs are here. Giannis Antetokounmpo. You got the Joker on one side as well. Murray probably is the better matchup amongst the two. You'd rather get the Milwaukee on the outside as opposed to the inside, but, you know, Joker doesn't care about matchups, right? Yeah, we kind of teased this earlier in the show, but feel free to elaborate now. Denver, Milwaukee, go for it, TJ.
Yeah, so I would put Jokic a little bit ahead of Giannis today, but I actually like playing Jamal Murray more than both of them if he's going to come in low-owned. Absolutely love him as a tournament play. Jokic, Murray, and Gordon are the three guys I'm most interested in Milwaukee. I don't think I'm going to get to MPJ. If KCP is out, maybe you take a shot on like a super cheap Peyton Watson or something like that. But it's really just those three guys, Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray, Jokic, that I have interest in. Jokic, again, ahead of Milwaukee, ahead of Giannis for me. And then on the Bucks side of things, Giannis is the only player in my pool. I'm not getting to anybody else on that team.
Who else would it be? Portis, maybe. Crowder, maybe. But yeah, they got Pat Bev now. Kind of muck some stuff up. Yeah, that's sort of where I'm at as well. And you're talking about running 150, and it's Giannis or bust. No Lillard.
No Lillard for me.
Okay, fair enough. Will, what do you got?
Yeah, me and TJ are on opposite spectrums on these studs here. Giannis is at the top of my list for the studs today. I think at home competitive matchup, probably going to play big minutes. I think Giannis could be a slate breaker here. I still like Damian Lillard, and I really like Malik Beasley. Looks like Malik Beasley is getting good minutes now, good run with this offense with Middleton not playing. So at 4,700, a guy that's going to get some shots up. I like him a ton. And then on the other side, I do like Jokic. I'm okay with Michael Porter Jr., okay with Jamal Murray. I think any of those guys are fine. But Giannis, Lillard, Beasley, big time plays for me today from the Bucks.
How many minutes we given to Beasley? I was thinking maybe that he could lose a couple. We're giving him 30. How many are we given to Pat Bev? 18? Yeah, I guess, are they chopping those two? Because I feel like Pat Bev can play a few more, and I think that'd be the first guy you would take away from. But all right.
But I think Beasley plays more minutes if it's competitive, though. Like, they've been in blowouts like the past two games. So I think Beasley has some upside here if things break his way.
You don't think I can throw Pat Bev on Murray a little bit more? Just trying to, and like, where I'm not against Pat Bev. I'm saying I think Beasley's minutes are safe. Is basically what I'm saying. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, and I'm not advocating to play Pat Bev for the record. I guess if you want to throw him in your pool, as like he's super super cheap, and I think there's a chance he plays more than 18 minutes. But this is a national
telling me there's
game.
A chance.
There you go. Does producer Steve, can he drop the GIF on us in like 15 seconds or less? Challenge to producer Steve. You think he can do it, TJ? You produce. Is that hard to do? How hard is that to do?
It depends if he's got the tab open or not. I think he can probably do it. Also depends if he's, he could be doing a little something else right now. He could have something else going on, but he's always ready to go.
There it is. Nailed it. Producer Steve, the gold star.
Just had to vamp long enough for him to get it out. But I knew he'd be ready.
All over it. Okay. Fun game, right? From a watchability perspective, but it's basically the stars, mostly the stars or bust. I know Will thinks Beasley is in play here. Let's talk about New Orleans. New Orleans taking on Memphis. 222 is the total. A lot of 8 o'clock games. It's another 8 o'clock game. New Orleans, about a 9-point favorite, taking on Memphis, whatever is left of Memphis. Officially, Derrick Rose is doubtful. Williams is doubtful. They did sign Jordan Goodwin to a 10-day. I think it was a 10-day. I'm not sure if he's available. Do we have him projected in right now? Of course, everybody else that is not playing. Williams has been pretty good, running kind of like pseudo point. Alderman's okay. Of course, Triple J, if this game stays close, not the greatest matchup here against New Orleans, but if they somehow hang, and it's actually a kind of a high-scoring game, he's probably doing his thing and hopefully staying out of foul trouble when it comes to New Orleans. They're pretty clean. I know Cody Zeller's got a knee, so he's questionable. Dyson Daniels was diagnosed with a knee today, and he's out for a bit. And Zion, I expect Zion's going to come back. I think last time it was just the old back half of back-to-back. They gave a little bit of rest against the horrific Blazers. But, TJ, feel free to start us off here. New Orleans and Memphis.
I think on the Memphis side of things, I don't know. This is just a game I wish wasn't on the slate because on first look, I don't really love anything, but there's multiple players who could have big games. And so on the Pelican side of things, as long as Zion's in, nobody really interests me all that much outside of him. Is really just going to be Zion for me as the main guy. If he's out, I think I have a lot more interest in this whole team. Ingram, McCollum, Valanciunas, Murphy would be my favorite. But if he's out, I really think it's just Zion, and I don't think it's crazy to take shots on Larry Nance either. He sometimes plays ahead of Jonas Valanciunas in a close game, and then he also sometimes plays in a blowout. So I think Larry Nance at 3,800 is in play for tournaments. And then on the Memphis side of things, Jaren Jackson Jr., Vince Williams, Santi Aldama, John Conchar, those 4 guys, throw them in a bucket. Any of them could be fine. Conchar, I'll probably not play, but at 4,600, I still think there's a ceiling there. I just hate playing Memphis, if I'm being perfectly honest with you.
As do I. By the way, a rule, I'm not sure if you said it, max 1, Valanciunas and Nance. I assume you have it. Yeah. Okay, I just want to make sure. I'm not sure that you mentioned that or not. Any other rules you happen to have in play? I feel like if you're playing Triple J, you probably want to run it back with somebody in New Orleans. Not telling you what to do, but if he has a big game,
I don't think you need to, though, because what if Zion finishes with 36 fantasy points, Ingram finishes with 40, McCollum finishes with 35, Jonas Valanciunas with 30? Then you just don't need anything because they're so spread out.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe if Zion is ruled out, maybe that changes a little bit.
Yeah.
As things stand right now, you're probably I think you're correct on that. Will, is this a snoozer for you? You like New Orleans, Memphis?
Zion, that's it. Next game.
All right, fair enough. We shall move
don't
on.
do that because the next game's a snoozer too.
Well, you know what? We can always sneak in an app. It's a long show. We're here for an hour and 20 minutes or so. We still have almost.
The next game kind of has us hung up though, and I don't. Do you think we get the news in time while we're live on Shingun? Because that's really important news in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I agree that it's important news. I don't think we're going to get the Hartenstein news, but in my head, I'm assuming he's not playing. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. And New York is, low-key bad at giving us. They were bad with the Brunson stuff. They didn't tell us about Brunson until about 15 minutes before the game even started. They only told us when they actually dropped the starting lineup, I think, if he was in or out. Brunson obviously is back for New York. Everybody else that's of note. Hartenstein questionable. We know OG is out. We know Randall's out. We know Mitch Rob's out. Jericho Sims is available, which I think we kicked. Not that you're going to play Taj Gibson, but I think he was kicked out of projections. Now he might jump back in if Hartenstein is ruled out. But I think there's also a chance that, Achua moves up to the 5. And maybe they add Bogdanovich or something like that to the starting lineup. But stay tuned. We don't know. A lot of questionable stuff. Of course, Houston is without FVV, Cam Whitmore as well, Tari Eason, and Şengün being questionable certainly matters. We saw Jeff Green draw on the start in his absence. We saw Aaron Holiday get a fair bit of run.
Not only did we see him draw the start, though, Dean, he played 31 minutes. That's a big deal to me.
How old is Jeff Green? Top of the head. You got it?
33.
TJ, higher or lower?
Higher.
Yeah, I think he's 37. He's 37. Yeah, geez. Good for him. He had that medical issue. He had a heart issue many, many years ago for Boston. This is the same guy, right? Yeah, the career he's made for himself. I know we don't like rostering him in DFS, as a general rule, but shout out to him for sticking around for 15 years in the association. Yeah. So what are we doing here, TJ? We have incomplete information as far as New York and Houston.
You did say we had time for a nap, right? Because I'm just gonna.
You know what? You have time to watch the Deadpool 3 trailer for the 7th time. Over under, if you watched it more or less than 6.5 times.
I have watched it only one time actually because it's been so busy. Watched it right when it came out yesterday, and that's about it. But I am recording a podcast on it tomorrow. I'm recording 2 pods. We're doing one a Deadpool 3 trailer breakdown, and then the other one is an Avatar: The Last Airbender primer, the new show that's coming to Netflix. And so I will be watching it many more times tomorrow, picking out all the Easter eggs and stuff like that. But the guy who is in charge of social media for the Ages of Fandom is on vacation right now, so I've been on that today. I haven't really had too much time to dive in.
Scale 1 to 10, how excited are we to see Deadpool 3? 1 to 10, 10 being super giddy.
10. It's gonna be one of those movies. This will be obviously I brought it up on you responded to that tweet I think a long time ago, but it's gonna be bar none the highest grossing rated R movie of all time. Bringing in a bunch of these X-Men characters from the early 2000s, having Wolverine, who's probably the 3rd most popular Marvel character, maybe 2nd most popular Marvel character behind Spider-Man. It's gonna be pretty massive, and I'm really excited.
Yeah, as of right now, Joker is currently has the biggest grossing movie ever for an R-rated movie, making $1 billion. And yeah, there is a sequel to Joker coming out. We had this conversation, and it's a musical. I don't know. That'll be interesting. Lady Gaga's in it. I'll certainly see it. I love.
What did you just call her? Awesome. Lady Gaga.
But yeah, Lady Gaga.
There you go.
You know who else? I mean, come on.
Yeah, I was just I had to make sure you didn't think her name was Lady Gaga.
We got Tim hanging out in chat, says, what is Deadpool? He's got to be. He's sarcastic. Like, okay, he doesn't
I don't
want to
think
watch
he's
it. It's
sarcastic.
fine.
I don't think
He knows what Deadpool is.
I don't think he does. I bet you, like, Tim can probably name you 3 superheroes. It's Spider-Man, Batman, Superman. I bet you that's it.
He can pick Deadpool out of a lineup, like, for sure, I think. You see enough commercials.
I don't know.
Will, do you care for Deadpool? Can you pick Deadpool out of a lineup?
But of course.
I feel like Tim is.
Stop. Hold the presses. Brandon Wilcox gets the post of the day. He says, Lady Googly Moogly. Brandon, that's incredible. You win the day, sir. Brandon Wilcox wins the day. Oh my God.
Mr. Gerg says Deadpool's too much fun for Tim. And yeah, as somebody that doesn't really love this world, that I know TJ's got that passion for it, but I do enjoy the Deadpool movies just because they're fun. They kind of wink at the audience, and they realize like a lot of it's just sort of silly and just like have a good time. And I appreciate that. They pull back the fourth wall and that kind of stuff. Reynolds is spectacular in it, so I'm looking forward to it as well. I enjoy both the Deadpools. Do I have to know everything about the Marvel universe? Do I have to like study Wikipedia before I go, TJ, or I'll get most of the references?
No, absolutely not. They've been very good with that lately at keeping their movies self-contained despite being part of a greater universe.
All right, let's move on. It's weird, New York. We play these guys. We were like Thibodeau. We played these guys into the ground. We're playing 3 or 4 Knicks every single night, and now they brought in some reserves. They got healthier. They got more expensive. The matchup against Houston's not amazing, and we're just like, I mean, I think if we lose Hartenstein, it could get a little bit interesting. But and I think Brunson's fine. Of course, he's matchup proof essentially. But 221 total, not a monster total. Precious is kind of sort of he's still a guy. If Hartenstein doesn't go, he could play 38 minutes again. But nothing is really popping as things stand right now. We got 2 games left to go. Top of the hour, 6 o'clock on the East Coast. Again, hit that like button, do subscribe, and turn on those notifications. Have we broken the tie for our poll? Let's see. Where are we at? Oh, no, it's turned. Did you enjoy the halftime show? 52% no, 48% yes. All right. Let's see if we still have time to figure that out as we close in on crunch time. The Wizards take on the Mavs. 247.5 is the total. That's an appealing total for sure. But Dallas is getting a healthy portion of it because the Wizards are terrible. They've been a little less terrible. Shout out to them for being a little bit less horrific with their recent coaching change. They've been better defensively as well. As far as their injuries, well, they're all good. They're perfectly clean. Isaiah Livers doesn't matter. I don't think he's played a minute yet for Washington. If he did, I missed it. I'm sure it was eventful. Luka's good to go with that nose. Maxi Kleber also has a nose, also available to play. He's probable. Dante Exum's dealing with that knee. We haven't seen him in a while. He's out. Derek Lively, another player with a nose. They got 3 noses on Dallas. That's amazing. What are the odds? He can't play. His nose is not letting him play basketball.
The All-Star break coming up, Dean. A lot of similar injuries are going to pop up on these teams.
Noses?
Watch out.
It's an epidemic with these noses?
Everyone has a toe. Everyone's going to have a toe on Wednesday. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
All right. So, 2 out of the 3 noses good to go. Kleber and Luka. Kyrie has a thumb. He's good to go as well. So how do we handle this, Will? Right? Because we know Luka's incredible. We know he's going to annihilate. I know, again, Washington's been playing better. Good for him. Good for that team. And Kyrie is well positioned. If you can't, we do a little more of a salary cap. If you can't fully find the funds for Luka, you got to figure one of these 2 gets there. If anything, they'll pummel for 3 quarters. How are we handling Dallas? And then we have Bagley on the other side, who's coming off that game where he was uber chalk, and now he's basically fallen aside, but still projects pretty well on DK. It feels really fragile. They went small in that game and their last game, and it felt pretty good. And he was also coming back from injury, and he looked like a dude that came back from injury because he was terrible when he was out there, looking like lethargic, just kind of like watching the games. I am not confident that Bagley is going to bounce back and play a bunch of minutes tonight. We are projecting him for 26, which I guess is somewhat of a hedge. Will, your takeaway for Washington and Dallas?
As an aside, Mr. Alex Caruso is out. I really like Ayo Dosunmu now and the rest of these Chicago Bulls players. I mean, that's That's fantastic, Dean. We
against Atlanta.
We couldn't ask for a better spot. So I'm going to revisit that temporarily. I know I talked about Kobe White, DeSumo, DeRozan, Vooch. To me, they're all equal at this point. Like, those are top tournament plays for me facing the Atlanta Hawks. Back to what you were
one
discussing.
bull in every lineup. You got to have at least one bull in every lineup.
I don't hate that call at all. I'm perfectly fine with that. TJ, you're probably close. I'm perfectly fine.
I'm with you there now. I like that.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see where these projections update, because I'm interested to see, like is Dalen Terry in play now at minimum price? Like, I don't think I really want to play Torrey Craig, but he's probably going to get like 26, 28 minute projection now, something close to that. So they got some like flat minimum price guys that I think might end up coming into play.
Yeah, for sure.
By the way, Fat Meat Greasy is saying Ayo, and I just had to acknowledge that spectacular name. Ayo or Kobe. Well, that's, I think Kobe's the better play.
Both. I think you can play them both together tonight, but
I agree.
Yeah. Either or, but I think you can play them both. Yeah.
Curious to see where projections land, because Caruso was a guy that he was one of the most popular players on DK and the optimals that I ran. And obviously we're kicking him out in 28, 30 minutes have to go somewhere. And usage goes somewhere. Not that he's a big usage guy. But Atlanta is the other part of it, is like the perfect storm of having players limited. Maybe Drummond. Maybe they'll be forced to play more Drummond. I don't know if that's the perfect matchup. Like, if it was Capella and Okongwu, that could be a lot of fun. Capella, Okongwu, Vuk, and Drummond all in the court at the same time. Like, it's like 1985 all over again. But unfortunately, there's no Capella. But go ahead, Will. I didn't mean to cut you off when it comes to Washington.
I thought that was important. That was probably more important in this Dallas-Washington game, because those players should actually have what I feel like are pretty productive outings, because we feel like the game's going to be closer. At least, the spread is telling us this game is going to be much closer than we anticipate Washington-Dallas, and I will tend to agree, which is why I'm a lot lower on Luka Doncic today. Not that Luka can't get there in 3 quarters, Dean. Obviously, he can get there in 1 quarter. We've seen the man put up 30, 40 fantasy points in a quarter. Like, that's not out of the realm of possibility. But I do think, for me, that's why I'm tempering my expectations with Luka. He's getting more ownership than all of the studs. I mean, Jokic is at 10, Giannis is at around 2, Luka's around 20. I get it. Once again, I'm just giving my thoughts as to why I'm going to be under the field there. But definitely like this spot. I like Kyrie 8,800. Once again, as long as they can keep up. On the Washington side, Denny Avdija is getting a lot of steam because the minutes have been there, Dean. I mean, he's been playing 35-plus minutes here recently. If he gets 35-plus minutes and the game's reasonably close, I think he's fine. If this game ends up being a blowout, I think he could easily not be fine. I'm okay with Denny. I'm still okay with Bagley for what it's worth. I'm okay with Daniel Gafford off of the bench. I'm okay with PJ Washington off the bench. But Dallas is deep. And so, I don't think you can play any of these guys together. I think we're splitting them all in this particular game.
What team did Daniel Gafford – he's new to Dallas. What team did he used to play for?
Oh, you mean Washington?
This isn't revenge, though. We can't pretend this is revenge. Like, hey,
thank you game?
You sent me from Washington to a contender in Dallas, Texas. I'm mad. Grr. No, he might say thank you so much. I'm going to – maybe he might play better because
I know PJ Washington feels good about being in Dallas. I would.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Like, you might say, hey, thank you. I know you guys want to lose, so I'll play extra hard for you.
And how about Miles Bridges vetoing all his trades at the trade deadline? And come on, Miles, just get out of town. Like, look, that's not against – hear me out here. Miles Bridges is a great player. But, man, if you got a chance to go, maybe he wasn't really going to a contender, D. Maybe they were just moving pieces around. He said, well, if I'm going to Washington, I might as well stay here. As an example, if that was the
probably
case.
Has too many charges in all the other states.
Well.
I wasn't following the teams that he was going to potentially go to, but maybe that was the case. I don't know. Or, it's pretty low-key for him hanging in Charlotte. It's one of those smaller markets, and maybe whatever's going on with him might get a little bit more magnified in the news if he was traded to like New York or somewhere else. But that's a conversation for a different show and a different podcast. Jump in here, TJ. What do you got? Yes, I've not got my apology from Head Chopper. He doubled down on being wrong on Twitter, but that's another conversation for another day. Oh man, I can't wait to get Chop on the show. I'm gonna. He's got to eat the L. Take the L, Chop, wherever you're at, and you too, Kirkwood. The both of you, take your L's and like it. TJ, what do you got as far as Washington and Dallas?
So the Washington side of things, I think all these guys are priced cheaply enough that I'm interested in them. Like Kuzma at 7,500, there's the ceiling there. Steve with the little Fortnite gif up there. I got to brag because a quick brag. So we got time because I played Fortnite for the first time ever. My nephew, he's 11 years old. He wanted to play, and they're doing like a year of homeschooling, and they're driving all across the states. And they're like visiting different player and like adjusting their curriculum to where they are, stuff like that. So really cool stuff. But so to spend some time together to hang out, he wants us to play like Fortnite online with each other. We played 3 times. We won victory royale, all 3 rounds. And I had never done this before, so I was pretty impressed. The old Halo 3 skills were definitely coming into play and transferred over. But going back to this game, Washington I find pretty interesting because there's a bunch of players, and I don't really know which ones I want to get to, but they're all pretty strong. We got Avdia, who I think is like a cash game play today. He's quite underpriced. Kuzma, Tyus Jones, Bagley, and Koulibaly. I think I have interest in all of them. Not going to take Poole. I could very easily see Poole just getting like ran off the court today, and they just have to close with Koulibaly because he's the only one who could guard Luka somewhat reasonably. And so I don't mind any of these Washington guys, but my favorite players in the game, of course, are Luka and Kyrie. Luka's tough to get to, but he's going to be the highest scorer on the slate. Kyrie's a little bit easier to get to. They're both strong plays. All we're worried about is the blowout.
I just ran some new optimals with the new projections for the Bulls, and I am sick to say one player is hitting my cap. One player has got 70%. I capped it at 70%, and it's Torrey Craig. Oh, no. This can't be right. Oh, I mean, he's 3.1K on DK, and he's projected for 23 median points.
But it is. It's Torrey Craig. Welcome.
9-game slate, we're playing Torrey Craig. That's what we're doing?
D, just X him out if you don't want to play him. I'm not saying you need to play him, but I'm saying that makes sense considering the situation. That's all I'm saying. 3
Bulls, by the way, are hitting it. And the second most popular player as far as my stuff is Kobe White, not surprisingly. And even Drummond. Drummond projects well. The projection team was listening, obviously. There's a chance Drummond might get a little bit more run here, and he would do really well in this game. We're giving him 25 minutes, and we know how he smashes when he gets out there. 25 minutes, 5.9K on DK, 33.5 median TK points. And as far as the chop, we're giving 25 to Drummond and 36 to Vuk. So we're saying there's going to be, again, I went to UCF, so pardon my math. I think we're saying 13 overlapping minutes of Vuk and Drummond at the 5. Yeah, that's I think Drummond's a really interesting tournament play. Like he could put up 15 and 15 pretty quickly. It could also go the other way. This game could go smaller, but also the Bulls only have so many options, TJ. I don't know, man. But what are you doing with Drummond? Have you decided? You're still figuring that out?
I'll definitely only do one of Vucevic and Drummond per lineup. But I'm definitely sorry, I got distracted by Steve saying what, no invite to Fortnite. And I got distracted. Steve, of course you're invited. We'll either kick out my nephew or Devin's wife, and we'll get a squad little going. Maybe me and Devin can do some trios action. But I'll only play one of Vucevic or Drummond in a lineup together. But I'm definitely going to play Drummond at 5,900. He could get extra one. He could get extra run if this turns out into a blow. He could get enough run if it's not. I think he's definitely in play at 5,600. What's his FanDuel price? Because I know he was like ridiculously overpriced on FanDuel the other day. 6,400. I think that's gone down enough now where not as strong of a play, but playable.
No surprise, Halliburton officially in. Will, you got anything as far as the Bulls? Anything you want to circle back there? Do we feel okay about Craig as like the super chalk? I mean, what is this fantasy points?
I'm not saying you got to jam him in, but I think he needs to be considered.
Am I crazy that I think
usage.
Dalen Terry might be the better version of this?
Not in tournaments.
How many minutes we giving
mean,
him?
Craig's getting
14
10%. Terry's getting none. If you split it right, and somehow Terry ends up with, this masterful performance, and he gets 28 fantasy points, then you've essentially won the day.
Okay, let's talk about the hammer in
I
just a second.
I still think Craig gets more minutes for what it's worth. Straight up.
I think so too. Do want to mention SimLabs for the people. SimLabs, you're not aware, it's the expert DFS lineup generation tool from RotoGrinders. Of course, it's RotoGrinders and Fantasy Labs. Now you can use it for NBA, what we're talking about right now. Just a few clicks, you get yourself hundreds of well-built correlated lineups for whatever contest you're playing. If you're in that big boy contest that TJ's talking about, I think it's $5 to jump in there. And is there 100,000 spots? It's an insane number. How many spots?
Yeah, it's a good old fashioned contest. Big, $4 to enter, 150 max, 100K to first. Good enough to second, third, and fourth. It's something that we haven't seen in a while. The Micro Millions opener, 150.
It's gonna fill
to first.
118,900 slots, and already 116,000 have been claimed. So if you want to jump in there,
it's about to fill.
Yeah. They're going to fill it up. Still 45 minutes, obviously, before we get to lock. It's a good time to go ahead and test it out as far as SimLabs. If you're running out of time, if you don't have your lineup situated, SimLabs is going to help you out with that. It quickly sets a bunch of lineups for you. Obviously, if you enjoy this for NFL, NFL is no longer a thing, but SimLabs, NFL, if you enjoyed that, same product here for NBA. If you happen to be an NBA specific subscriber, you have access to this. If you're a premium subscriber, a combo subscriber, you have access to this as well. And just a tease for the people. I don't know if you guys know this. Golf, SimLabs Golf is coming soon in beta, possibly tomorrow, possibly Wednesday. It's coming very, very soon. If you're in the golf streets, SimLabs for golf will be a thing very, very shortly. Also a thing very shortly is crunch time. But before we get to crunch time, let's talk about the Warriors and the Jazz. 240 is the total. It's high. It's tight. Jazz, 1-point favorites here, Will. Jazz were popping a fair bit earlier. I feel like they've fallen back as far as the news that has progressed throughout the show. They are fully healthy, the Utah Jazz, that is. I guess, is Otto Porter going to play? Does that matter? I don't think it matters. Golden State also fully healthy with the exception of Chris Paul. Feel free to give us the elevator pitch on Warriors Jazz, Will.
Very simple for me. I like Jonathan Kuminga. I like Draymond Green. I am still in the camp where I still want to play Klay Thompson because the price is plummeting. I still think he's got some upside in certain matchups. I do think this is one. On the other side, Lauri Markkanen at 8,400 on DraftKings. I like him. Of course, Walker Kessler. He's getting some steam in terms of the ownership. But I think it's good chalk today. And then Keontae George coming off the bench. Those are the guys that I would like to target from the Golden State-Utah game. I did have a good friend, Alexander, ask what are the props that I'm participating in today. So I'm going to give those out real quick. Give me Miles Bridges at 7.5 rebounds, less than that. Vince Williams at 6.5, less than that. Santi Aldama at 6.5 rebounds, less than that. Derek Jones Jr. at 4.5 rebounds, less than that. Kyle Kuzma at 6.5 rebounds, less than that. Trey Jones at 3.5, less than that. Jeremy Sochan at 6.5 rebounds, less than that as well. Those are a handful of props I'm playing. If you want any additional ones, please head on over to Chiefs Prop Shop, and I'll be posting plays in there up till lock.
Şengün officially in. I got a ton of him on Underdog today, so I'm very happy about that. Got him at a discount with the questionable tag. Interesting. Walker Kessler was popping a fair bit. Now 28 minutes. We're expecting him to draw the start here, clearing out some of the dudes in the front court. Utah's still kind of cluttered in the backcourt. Jump in here, TJ. What do you got when it comes to the Warriors and the Jazz?
Yeah, so starting with the Warriors side of things, mostly just the guys up top, Steph Curry and Jonathan Kuminga, but I like Podziemski.
Listen,
too.
My TV just turned on randomly.
Okay. Does your wife have the remote in the other
to
room and she's just playing a game with you? We'll power through. Go ahead, TJ.
Steph Curry, Kuminga, Podziemski, Draymond are my 4 favorite, and then I think Klay is fine. I don't really want to get there, but I do think there's still a ceiling if he's shooting the ball well. Draymond, I think, is probably the best play from this team at 5,900. Just too cheap for him. Kuminga, probably my next favorite. Nobody I'm super high on, but I think all 5 of those guys are pretty strong. On the Jazz side of things, this is going to be one of my top teams on the slate. Markkanen, Sexton, Clarkson. I like all of these guys at low ownership. And then Walker Kessler, Keontae George, and Chris Dunn. They're all picking up some ownership, but I still think they're all fantastic values today.
We got crunch time coming in. A lot of crossover questions we can ask. For starters, Tim, were you being for real? You don't know, you couldn't pick Deadpool out of a lineup? You don't know who Deadpool is? You're not aware of his existence?
I could not pick Deadpool out of a lineup.
How is that possible?
If you with like Spider-Man and Batman, you could do some deductive reasoning, but you're saying if it was like 3 random Marvel characters.
Am I incorrect in what I said, Tim, that you would probably be able to name a total of 3 superheroes?
I'll take the over.
I think I could go more than 3, barely. It's close.
Like Spider-Man, Batman, and Superman. That might be the limit.
Right. That might be it.
Does your child care for any of these things? And you never like kind of like see him popping up in the house?
She's 14, so no.
I don't know what the rules
That's
are.
the prime age.
No.
Yeah.
Deadpool's rated R, Tim.
She was never into superhero stuff.
Does she also hate fun?
Have you passed that down to her?
No, I have not, unfortunately.
Roth, is this a celebratory drink? I know you had a nice call during the Super Bowl. I was looking for your bet, the bet you threw out to the people. You were talking about taking San Fran first half, Kansas City second half, and somebody, actually a viewer earlier, said he followed all of our bets with the exception of my bet because the number moved too much, and they all hit. They got like 9-1 or 10-1 on them. So it was great of you to bring that up. I know you're bringing up to like break up whatever myself and chop whatever you're going through. But it was like sort of like those Cardi and Cheese vibes. I love when Cardi and Cheese argue.
Yeah.
We weren't really arguing, and you get all uncomfortable. That's my favorite part of Crunch Time. I'm looking forward to that.
That is exactly what was happening. I thought I was going to come on here and be like, look how awesome I am. My plus 900 bet hit. I didn't realize every bet that we gave out hit. That's fantastic.
With the exception of mine, but the line moved too much and it hit before the overtime. Let's not get into it, but like Roth, you got to break the tie, or I guess Eyster, anybody break the tie. We're currently deadlocked. Oh no was the winner. Did you enjoy the halftime show, Roth?
Yes. Yes, I did, but it was okay. Like, I'm a huge Usher fan. I grew up listening to Usher. I thought it was dope. He can dance. The roller skating thing was cool.
The mics were too quiet.
The mics sucked. The backup singers, you couldn't hear any. I thought the audio was really trash. It was.
But props are doing it live. Like they could have done it like over like a track.
Yes. Right. It was. Yes, I enjoyed it, but it was pretty close to like meh. Yeah.
Keith, you got a takeaway as far as halftime or anything football related?
No takeaway as far as the halftime show. Yeah, just it was fine. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't one of the better ones I've seen. Just want to reiterate your shout out to Roth there. I had a big position on the Chiefs already, but when I heard him say that on the show, I was like, that's exactly how I think the game's going to play out. Why don't I just bet it? So I tailed Roth on that one as well.
Let's go. I love to hear that. That's awesome, man.
Could Tim tell a difference between Deadpool and Usher is the question. Does he know which one is which amongst those two?
Yes. Seems likely. Yeah.
Side by side, we can figure that out. Okay. Hey, before we step aside, we want to give the people our favorite play. We're going to yield the crunch time in just a second. But TJ, your favorite play, who's going to break the slate? The old feel it in the plums. What do you got for the people?
Geez, you put me on the spot. I didn't know it was coming.
You've been on the show a million times.
Yeah, but I forgot. I'm going with the sneaky, not expensive one. I'm not going with a stud like we usually would for this type of situation. I'm going to say the combo of TJ McConnell and Isaiah Jackson break the slate.
Ooh. Will, see that? Raise it?
I'm not going to raise it. I'll just say what I think, and that's the Chicago Bulls starting lineup probably outscores every other unit on this slate tonight, facing the Atlanta Hawks shorthanded.
All right. That was Will. That was TJ. I was Dean. Now, the FanDuel sponsor crunch time. You got Keith Eyster. You got TastefulTides, Tim, and you have Kevin Roth. Go for him for all your future NFL bets as well. Roth, take it away.
Good stuff as always. Welcome to it, ladies and gents. Somebody told me my mic was low, so I'm just gonna jam it right in my face. Hopefully it sounds good. You know the drill here. We are on crunch time. This show sponsored by FanDuel. We're gonna take you up to lock. We're gonna take you through lock. And we got two of the sharpest minds in the biz hanging out with us. We got Tim in the house, TastefulTides. What up, Tim?
Yeah, not much. What a game last night. That was a lot of fun to watch. I bet the Chiefs, so I was pretty happy about that. Our squad ride pick also won, so that was good. And so yeah, it was a really fun night. I had way too many adult beverages, so you know, I had some fun last night.
I did as well. Yeah, I was with like a high school buddy of mine. We were watching it together, and we were just pretending we were in high school, drinking 20 beers. It was good times. We got Keith Eyster in the house as well. What up, Ice? How are you?
Pretty good. Yeah, it was a fun game at the end. It was a really rough start. Like the first half, there was not much to write home about.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was a good day for me betting overall. Mentioned tailing yours, had a big position on the Chiefs. Had Kelsey over. That was looking really dead at halftime. But shout out to him for having a big second half. The squad ride as well. So betting went really well. Broke about even in DFS, but betting was a good time.
Very nice. Do we have a favorite commercial from the Super Bowl? Were you paying attention to the commercials, or were you actually watching for the game?
Always game first for me. I would say like the Christopher Walken one stood out. That was pretty decent.
Yeah, I like the Walken one. Tim, you got another one?
I really like the Dunkin' Donuts one. I know that's chalky, but I really liked it.
Yeah. I don't know. That one weirded me out. I didn't really like the Dunkin' one. The Sarah V with Michael Cera doing the lotion one, that one got me. I don't know if you saw that, but that was my fave.
I must have missed that one.
Yeah. Oh, you should watch it. It is so weird and pretty funny. Hey guys, we are what 35 minutes here from lock. We got to get some content in, and I don't know which of you is going to be cash and which is tournament. So help me out there.
Yeah, I can do cash.
Great.
Keith's way better for tournaments than me.
Okay, great. Well, then why don't you start us off with, kind of where we stand and maybe what we're waiting for, and then dive into a FanDuel cash build.
Yeah, so we got the Şengün news for Houston, so that was big. He is in fact in. I would say that the next biggest piece of news that we're waiting for is Zion. I'm thinking that he's going to play, but I'm not positive about that. And then I'd say we're waiting on Isaiah Hartenstein. He's questionable. I personally don't think he's going to play. So I think we're going to have to wait and see what that's going to be all about. If he doesn't play, I'd imagine we're going to see Precious Achiuwa an absolute ton. So definitely keep an eye out for that. We got the Caruso news. He's out. So that's going to funnel some extra minutes to guys like Torrey Craig, Ayu Dosunmu, people like that. So that's already news that we've gotten. But there isn't, given how many games there isn't a ton of news really other than Zion and Hartenstein.
Okay. Well, then I think with that, we can jump right in. Mike says Scottie Pippen is starting. I don't know if that's something we were expecting.
Yeah, so I would assume he's coming in for Gilliard, right, Keith?
Yep, I would assume he's starting at the point. And what is his price? Because that is pretty interesting. Let's see.
And it looks like Gigi Jackson is out, according to Mike in the chat.
Yeah, he violated some team rule or something like that.
He was with you, Pippen just getting crazy at the Super Bowl. He had a few too many.
Pippen is 6,100 on FanDuel. That's a bit rich for my blood. Ooh. But 4K on DK might be useful.
Yeah, and we just got Derrick Rose officially ruled out, which he may have been projected out already, but he's officially out. So, yeah, Scottie Pippen at 4K. I think that's interesting. Yeah, not a great spot, but I mean he's cheap. He's going to have to play a ton.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will, of course, work our way to DK, but we're going to start on FanDuel. So, Tim, why don't you walk me through a FanDuel cash build for starters?
Yeah. So, you're going to hear me talk a lot about Chicago today. They get an amazing matchup against Atlanta. They're already one guard down with Caruso ruled out. So Kobe White is going to be a staple play for me in cash and in single entry GPP. It's an absolutely amazing spot. He should have to play, high 30s minutes, I would say. He might play over 39 minutes today. We have him projected for 39 minutes. He might go over that. I wouldn't be surprised. We got to talk about Luka, especially for FanDuel. He is very, very expensive. He gets the absolute best matchup probably against Washington. Obviously, you can jam him in if you want to, but at 12-8, he's really going to have to really crush because you're giving up a ton to play him on FanDuel. He is so easy to play on DK, but FanDuel it's a little bit harder. So maybe on FanDuel you can go down to Kyrie at 9,200 to get exposure against Washington. Get exposure to Dallas. Emmanuel quickly against the Spurs at 7K for FanDuel, I think is very, very viable for cash. And then moving over to shooting guard, it would probably be Torrey Craig's got to be in one of your spots. He might be better suited at small forward than shooting guard, but he's only 4K. He's going to have to play a ton. He's not a high usage guy, but we do need some value on the slate. So 4K Torrey Craig is going to be the chalk, value guy, I would say tonight. I would be very careful with him in large field GPP, but for cash, I think you just plug him in and hope he gets you 20 fantasy points. Another shooting guard is Devin Vassell. Toronto is not the same defensive team that they once were. Now that they've given up Siakam and OG, so Toronto is absolutely terrible defensively now. So Devin Vassell, I think, is cash game viable. Emmanuel quickly and Kyrie are obviously shooting guard eligible. Also, I think Gary Trent Jr. Is interesting, but maybe he's more of a turn. And then small forward, if you're not playing Craig at shooting guard, you've got to play him at small forward. And then another bull, DeMar DeRozan, 8,100. Amazing spot, great matchup. If you have the extra 600, I would rather play Scotty Barnes over DeMar, but they're both fantastic. So DeMar probably is going to be showing up in more optimals. He's projected technically a little bit better points per dollar. And then I think Jonathan Kuminga at 7,400. If you don't have the money for DeMar, you could play Kuminga at 7,400. I think that if Zion were to sit, Brandon Ingram would become a fantastic cash game play also. Going to power forward, I love Jared Allen today. I love him in tournaments. I think you can play him in cash. Philadelphia without Embiid has absolutely no rim protection. They have no interior defense. So Jared Allen is going to absolutely clean up on the boards. And he's power forward eligible on FanDuel. So I really like him today. I already mentioned Kuminga and Barnes. You can play them at power forward. Draymond Green, 6,700. I think that's going to be a really good fantasy game. I think Draymond could potentially, easily get a triple-double in that game. So I think 6,700 for him. There aren't really any good punts at power forward, so you're going to have to stay kind of in this mid-range, I think, in cash. And then center, I'd like to hear what Key's take is for tournaments. But, Andre Drummond, I don't think you can play him in cash game, but you definitely – he's currently in my single entry build. They only have 9 guys. Drummond's 6,400. I think he's a really strong play. I'd rather play him. I'd rather play Drummond over Pirtle, over Kessler, over Draymond. If I had the money, I'd play Vucevic, but I don't think I'll have the money. So it's a little bit scary playing Drummond in cash. I think it depends on how, your risk tolerance, right? I don't think I'm going to play him in cash, but I'm definitely going to get exposure to him in single entry GPP.
Okay, very good. Well, let's start there. Ice, you want to kind of begin with that center talk?
Yeah, it's a really strong position today. And I'm with Tim that I think he is an excellent tournament play. We have seen them be far more willing to run Vucevic and Drummond out on the floor together. They actually started them one of these games. I believe it was against like Cleveland, who has two bigs. Atlanta isn't necessarily a huge team, so I think there is a little bit of risk that they're willing to do that for like 30 minutes. Drummond will certainly get whatever minutes Vooch is not out there. And then we do currently have some overlap projected. So I think they've shown that they're willing to do that. It's not the best team to do it against, I would say. But we know that Drummond is great per minute. So he's definitely in play for tournaments. Even if he only plays like 22 minutes, I think you could possibly inch up to 28 minutes. That's enough for Andre Drummond to get there at 6,400.
Sure. Yeah.
That 6K range is really strong, though. Tim mentioned a couple of names that I have a lot of interest in. Walker Kessler. So there's not a ton of injury news on this slate, but there is a lot of new rotation like situations.
Mhm.
The Jazz have been a really difficult rotation to figure out. They generally play 10 guys, and they're not always the same 10 guys. Now, in the first game past the trade deadline, they traded Agbaji, Fontecchio, and the big one for Kessler is Kelly Olynyk. Kessler stepped back into the starting lineup. He started next to John Collins. He played 27 minutes, I believe. So I think Kessler is much safer than he has been. He is a good per minute producer as well. We don't know that they're going to run that same rotation out, but I'm going to lean into that and just hope that Kessler is good to go and he's going to play 28 or 30 minutes in this spot. I think he has a lot of upside now that rotation is kind of thinned out, especially in the front court there with Olynyk gone. I think Pirtle's in a great spot against San Antonio. Wemby is going to have trouble controlling him in the post. He does most of his scoring inside. Wemby's just not that strong at this point, and Pirtle's a big dude, so I think he has some upside. Miles Turner against Charlotte. We always like to target Charlotte for big men. John Collins is somebody I have interest in. He's been playing just incredible as well. I certainly wouldn't play him and Kessler together. But that 6K range is really, really strong at center. So I think you can definitely get different there in tournaments. We'll be interested to see where the Drummond ownership comes in. If he's going to be super popular, I wouldn't mind going underweight on him for guys like Kessler, Draymond, Pirtle, like that tier there. I'm still extremely interested.
I mean, it sounds like with that many guys, it's going to be tough for anyone to come in at a high ownership. Like those are all good plays.
Yeah, I think it will be pretty spread out. I do want to touch on one more name while we're on the center position. Please. He has power forward eligibility, but Marvin Bagley, I have no idea what Washington's going to do with him. He started last game, but then he didn't play the entire second half. So he ended up with like 15 minutes and was an absolute bust after projecting really well. What they did is they ran Kuzma at the 5 quite a bit. So again, this is one of those new rotation situations. They traded Gafford, who is now on the other side. That does help him in this game, I think. Now that Dallas has Gafford, they're going to play Gafford, and I think they're going to need Bagley's size to match up against Gafford. Yeah. So we've seen Bagley play 34 minutes, and put up like 50 fantasy points before. So like I'm leaning into that. I'm bumping Bagley a little bit. Avdia is another guy in this Washington rotation, has been playing a ton of minutes. What I did is I made a group of Avdia and Bagley, and I bumped them both a couple of minutes and made a 0-1 group. So I only have one of them in any given lineup because I think there's a chance that Avdia could play like 38 minutes again in this game. I think there's a chance that Bagley could play 32 minutes in this game. Both of them aren't going to play that amount of minutes, but I think one of them will play that allotment where we kind of have it hedged right now. 26 Bagley minutes. I think you're looking more at like 15, 18 or like 30, 32. So it's a really tough situation, tough rotation to figure out right now.
Okay, that's a good note. Tim, you wanted to interject something earlier. What were you saying?
No, I just wanted to point out that Hartenstein is in fact out.
Okay, and does that change things for us? I'm sorry if I missed that.
We'll not too much.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
We'll see who they start. I think that's going to be the huge thing. They started Taj Gibson last game, and he only played like 19 minutes.
We ain't playing Taj Gibson.
Well, now Sims is available though, Keith. Sims
correct.
Is in.
Yep, and they could also start Achua at the 5. Achua has played 40 plus minutes in like 6 straight games. So
Right.
depending on the start, if Achua is in there and starting, he's going to be popping for like his prices come way up. He's still a tough click, but he could be projected for like 40 minutes, and that would take both of Sims and Taj out of play. I don't think we're really targeting the big men outside of Precious because they could start Boyan at the 4 and Precious at the 5. I think would be their best lineup, but we'll have to see what the starting lineup looks like. I don't have a ton of interest in Sims or Taj Gibson either way, though.
Okay. And then Dean pointing out KJ Martin is starting for Philly. And by the way, I still want to get your takes here on FanDuel at other positions. We've literally just been talking big men. But any notes on KJ Martin starting?
That's how we had him projected, I believe. 28 minutes, pretty solid run. 4,300 is a nice price tag. It's a really tough matchup against Cleveland is the biggest problem.
Yeah.
I think the minutes will be there, but it's not the best game environment. I think there's a chance Philly could really get blown out. They've been playing awful since losing Joel Embiid. Now Tobias Harris is out as well, so really concerned about the blowout in that game. The follow-up question is, does KJ Martin get blowout run? And I think he'll be out there for into the third and fourth quarter a little bit, even if it's well out of hand. I don't know that he would like fully mop up though. If you're looking to target somebody for a blowout, I think Ricky Council or Terquavion Smith would be my preferred options. Just to find some cheap guards. Like guard value is really struggling on this slate, to be honest.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll get into that in a second. I did see this question. Any thoughts on Kenneth Lofton? He's the only depth they have. Is that like the big body dude for Memphis who was a two-way player and came in and just absolutely balled at the end of last year?
That is absolutely him.
Can I play him? Because I want to play him if I can play him.
I don't think Philly's going to play him is the biggest issue. We saw this situation over the weekend.
Yeah.
And he didn't get any run. I think, and even Bamba was out in that game. So they were down to just Paul Reed, and Lofton still did not get run. So I do not think Kenny Lofton is in play. You would need a massive blowout for him.
That guy's game is so smooth. I like his highlights. He is a fun player. I loved it. Okay, well, let's kind of we will rerun it. Start back at guard, run through FanDuel, and then I'll kick it over to DK for a cash build. Ice, what are your thoughts here in FanDuel?
All right. So at the guard position, it starts with Kobe White. Like the Bulls are really shorthanded now, and they're in this awesome matchup against Atlanta. So I've been struggling with what to do with the Bulls for most of the day. I originally was considering doing like a 0-1 group of Kobe White, DeMar DeRozan, and Vucevic. But now that they're so shorthanded, I definitely think you want to leave that at least 0-2. I probably still wouldn't play the three studs together, but Kobe White is in a fantastic spot. Don't love the ownership, but it's really, really difficult to get up to a Luka today or a Jokic, especially on FanDuel. FanDuel's pricing is incredibly tight. So I am living more in this mid-range. Kobe White is somebody I'm going to be slightly under the field on, but he is still a significant part of my build in this awesome spot. If Philly has any chance of keeping this game close, I think Kelly Oubre is going to have to shoot lights out. Donovan Mitchell is tough to get to, but he's been really solid. Again, lots of blowout risks there, but I don't mind the Mitchell Oubre pairing. Tim talked about Vassell. I think it's a fantastic spot for him. Good point there about Toronto's defense really going downhill since the trades. I think you could play Trey Jones on the other side of that game. Jalen Brunson certainly has massive ceiling in this spot. Not a great matchup against Houston, but Brunson should get a ton of usage, and we know he'll play a ton of minutes as well. Tyus Jones, another like mid-range type guy that I think we'll see enough minutes. Matchup against Dallas is okay. Gary Trent as a cheaper type of guard, I think, is in play. I like the matchup against San Antonio. He's obviously very scoring dependent. But if he's making his threes, he has a chance to find a ceiling. Podziemski, the other name I want to mention there, if you're looking for like mid-range type of plays, minutes seem pretty secure for him. They've really kind of soured on Klay Thompson, and he's been closing over Klay. So I think you can still play Podziemski, even though the price tag is coming up a little bit. Moving on to the forward position, DeRozan, same as the Kobe White spiel. It's just an awesome spot. I think one of DeRozan, White, or Vucevic absolutely crushes to this spot. So I don't even mind making the rule of 1 to 2 Chicago Bulls. where you're putting at least one of those guys in every single lineup. Pretty confident one of them finds a ceiling here. Torrey Craig is always an uncomfortable click. I would try to pivot away from that or not build with some of the higher end studs. So you don't need to go all the way down into this 4K range. I do think Dalen Terry is an interesting pivot off of Torrey Craig. If the game gets away from either side, really, Dalen Terry could see more run. Also, no certainty that Torrey Craig is going to play upper 20s minutes. We could see him capped at like 24 minutes in this spot, and that would allow Dalen Terry to get a little bit more run. I do like Jonathan Kuminga a ton. Great matchup against Utah. He's had super secure minutes, has been in the mid 30s in his minutes, has been shooting the ball well and a lot. Usage rate looks really solid. So I think Kuminga has enough upside still. His price tag has come up a little bit. Love Tim's Jared Allen call as well. Philly has been an absolute disaster on the defensive end. Paul Reed cannot defend inside. So this is an awesome spot for Jared Allen. Building in a little bit of Brandon Ingram just in case we get Zion ruled out later. I feel like Zion plays in this spot, but it would definitely be beneficial to have a little Brandon Ingram in the event Zion gets ruled out. Draymond at that price is very much in play. Miles Bridges is one of my favorite tournament plays on the entire slate. He's expensive, but Charlotte, they have an awesome matchup, first of all, against Indiana, and they just don't have anybody to take up usage anymore. Bridges has been playing upper 30s minutes. Matchup is great against Indiana and showing less than 5% ownership here on FanDuel. Absolutely love him for tournaments. Aldama in play as a guy to save a little bit of money. Should be out there for 30-ish minutes. Let's see here. Did I leave it? I talked about John Collins a little bit. I talked about Denny Avdia a little bit earlier, and then we covered the center position earlier as well. So I think we are good to go.
Very good. Okay, we got to kick it to DK, but we should note this show, by the way, is presented by FanDuel. If you bet $5, you get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. For new users in Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Vermont, and Wyoming. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 and up. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Shout out to FanDuel keeping this show free for the masses. With that, let's kick it to DK. We've got 14 minutes or so until lock. Tim, what are we doing on DK? It's a different slate, right? Is it that there's more value, or is it just a Luka being cheaper thing?
Well, it's both, really. That's a good call by you, Kevin. Yeah, Luka's much easier to get to. Scottie Pippen Jr. is our best points per dollar point guard. You're definitely playing him in cash. I'm going Pippen and Luka in both cash and single entry. But there are other really strong options too. Kobe White, but I mean, I'm probably going to be playing him at shooting guard. But the big difference between DraftKings and FanDuel tonight is the Scottie Pippen situation and the Luka situation. Luka's so much easier to play. So it's definitely going to be Luka for me and Scottie Pippen. But there's also guys like I want to hear what Heath has to say about Trey Mann. I think he's in an absolutely great spot. We bumped his minutes projection up to 29. I think he was 27 earlier. So that's getting him to a little bit extra run. Not for cash, but you could definitely play him in single entry GPP. Shooting guard for me, it's going to be Kobe White for sure. But I also think if you don't have the money, you can definitely play Devin Vassell at 6,500. Gary Trent Jr., I guess if you're like punting, I do like Gary Trent quite a bit for tournaments. It's going to be a fantasy friendly game, and he's only 4,200. So I kind of like him for tournaments, but I would stick with Kobe White or Devin Vassell for cash games. Small forward, Denny Avdia is going to be like the popular play. 5,900. I think he's in a great spot. Chris Dunn, we kind of seeing those Jazz rotations maybe shrinking a tad, so I feel confident that he will get to like 25 minutes, and he's only 4,100. So I think is viable for cash games. I think Vince Williams is viable for cash games also. DeMar DeRozan is going to be probably a very, very popular choice in cash games. I have no issue with that. It really just depends on how many Bulls you want to play, right? So it's definitely a strong play. So yeah, so if you can fit Luka, if you can fit DeMar, which you probably can, I would definitely go that route. And then power forward's really, really easy. You're definitely playing Torrey Craig. He's power forward only. He's 3,100. Like, I would be underweight in tournaments, but in cash games or like really, really small field GPPs, I would almost just play him just as like a blocker. So 3,100. And then Draymond at 5,900. I think he's definitely viable for cash and GPPs. If you don't quite have the money for DeMar, I think Jonathan Kuminga or Zion are certainly viable pivots for cash and for GPPs. So it's a pretty strong position, power forward today. And then center, it's probably Walker Kessler. I really, really like Miles Turner. I agree with Keith. He is one of my favorite GPP plays today. I'm really debating on what to do between Turner and Drummond in single entry right now. I'm not really sure what to do. They're projected very similarly. Drummond's projected for lower ownership, but I think for cash games strictly, you're probably just going Walker Kessler. If you have extra money and you don't want to pay up at like power forward for DeMar, you could play Vucevic in cash also.
Okay. Very good. Eyster, I want to bring you in. I guess I'm most intrigued about some of this value, the chalky value in particular. Where do you land there, and kind of walk me through your tournament thoughts in general?
Yeah, so let's start with Torrey Craig. He's going to be the most popular guy, I fear. I would be underweight on that. He's not a good per minute producer, and I think the minutes are pretty volatile. That they have a couple of wings there in Dalen Terry and Julian Phillips, who it would not surprise me to see them get a little bit of run in this spot. So I don't think Torrey Craig's minutes are super secure. We could see him in the low 20s, and he's not a guy who gets it done per minute. So he needs the minutes in order to be viable, especially in tournaments. Think he's fine for cash. He's definitely going to have a role, but I would look to be significantly underweight in tournaments. As far as other cheap stuff, I think there's a couple of new rotation stuff that we can go over. Tim touched on wanting my take on it. Charlotte is the backcourt is definitely interesting. Trey Mann and Mitchich, both new to the team. We saw Trey Mann start and play 27 minutes in the first game with these two. Mitchich actually closed, though. So I think they're both in play. I think it's very difficult to know exactly who's getting the majority of the run here. But if Trey Mann were to close this game instead of Mitchich, he could see like 31, 32 minutes in this spot. So I think he's a fantastic tournament play. I think you can play Mitchich as a straight line pivot as well at 3,900. I think there's a chance that he closes again and sees like 26, 28 minutes. The other one that Tim touched on was Utah, another spot to target guards. So these are the kind of plays that we're missing over on FanDuel, which is why it's a much more wide open slate on DraftKings. Chris Dunn and Keontae George have both been getting a little bit more run since the trade deadline. They actually even ran them together in their two games since they traded away like Agbaji and Fontecchio. They're using one of them on the wing a little bit more. So I have interest in both of those guys. Chris Dunn is not a great per minute guy. I think I would target George more so for tournaments. But Dunn, if he plays more than 24 minutes, he could certainly get there as well. I would probably limit the Charlotte guys to one of those per lineup because I think they're like taking each other's minutes. Where George and Dunn playing together, I think they could both get there. So I wouldn't necessarily limit those guys. But those are some new rotations where I think you can lean into the uncertainty and just pick your favorite guy and hope that you guess right there. But if you're building a portfolio of lineups, obviously have exposure to both.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You want to walk me through any other thoughts, positions?
Like Luka is the main thing. I think this is an incredible spot for him against Washington. For a while there, I was just saying like he's not going to play 40 minutes against Washington would be my thought process here. But then the dude just keeps playing 40 minutes. So he's affordable. I'm going overweight on Luka Doncic. Like he has just been absolutely incredible, putting up near 80 DK every game. It seems like, so he's my favorite spend up. Can't really get to him on FanDuel, but definitely going overweight here on DraftKings. Giannis and Jokic, we haven't said one time on this show, which is just absolutely insane. If picking between the two, I slightly prefer Jokic, but again, like I want some exposure over here on DraftKings. Now that we have a little bit more value, the Scottie Pippen thing certainly helps on DraftKings. Talked about some of those other guards. I think there are definitely ways where you can get up to the high range of studs here on DraftKings, where it's not really as feasible on FanDuel.
Any interest in Wemby? I was looking at his game log. His production's come down. His minutes have kind of been dropping a little bit, but I think it's just situational.
Yeah, it's blowout related, really.
Right.
He has a 30 minutes cap at this point. So we're no longer dealing with like that 25, 26 minute cap that he was on. He's now been cleared to play up to 30 minutes, but he's been losing run the last few to blowouts, like you said. I'm not scared of Toronto.
Come down.
Yes,
Can't he absolutely murder a Toronto team, which is not the Toronto team of old?
100%. This is an outstanding matchup for him. The price is under 9K. Like, absolutely would not shock me one bit to see him go for like 55 DK points.
Yeah. Okay. Very nice. Any other names you want to throw out there? If not, we've got about 6 minutes until some QQs.
I think we're good to take some questions.
Okay. Very good. I am, as always, starting in the RG Discord because that's where the cool kids hang out. And we've got quite a few questions already coming in. So I'm scrolling up a little bit here, and we'll start with Carolina guy. FanDuel GPP, large field. Oh, baby. Can we play Giannis and Joker together?
Yeah, I mean, they're facing each other, so I understand the question. I think you can do it before the Pippen thing. I would have said I'd hesitate to do it, but I think it's doable now with Torrey Craig. I mean, you probably have to do something uncomfortable like play Torrey Craig and Scottie Pippen.
So this is FanDuel, to be clear.
Oh, I'm sorry. On FanDuel, absolutely not.
Yeah,
no, sorry.
No, okay.
on DK, I think it's viable on DK. No chance on FanDuel.
I'm glad that Kevin stopped you.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Let's see. How many Utah players are too many in DK cash for one lineup? Or, how many is the right amount? How many is too many? However you want to answer it.
Utah?
Yep.
DK cat. I'd say one.
One is the right amount.
I think one, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. FanDuel single entry ice, the max amount of bulls that you would play in FanDuel single entry.
3 is the max amount I would play. And 2 studs. 2 Vooch, Kobe White, and DeRozan.
Okay. DK GPP question. Ice thoughts on Siakam over Turner?
Yeah, fine with that. Same thesis of the play. Awesome matchup against Charlotte. Should be lots of rebounds available. Fine with it.
DK GPP question again. Ice, you want Aaron Gordon, Abdia, or Gafford?
Is Eric Gordon on the slate?
Aaron Gordon. Did I say Eric? I meant Aaron.
Well, I heard Eric. You probably said Aaron. Gordon, Gafford, or who?
Or Abdia.
Abdia is certainly the safest. He'll be the most popular as well. Gafford would be my favorite pivot.
Okay. We'll go to Alex's question. It is DK cash. Tim, this is on DK forward spot, 5,800 or less. What do you got there?
Oh, so they can't play Atvia then, because that's definitely the play. It's real shaky. I guess Santi Aldama, but it's pretty bad price point. You might want to rethink your lineup. For cash, it's just not the play that you want. Yeah, because at 5,900 you have Atvia and Draymond, and then below that there's really nobody. So, yeah, that's fair. We'll go to JT Money. Tim, your top 2 value plays over on FanDuel, which is harder than on DK, but where are you looking for the value on FanDuel? Definitely Torrey Craig. I think he's a necessary evil on FanDuel because he's so cheap. I like Gary Trent a little bit. He's 5K. Yeah, it's definitely looking like a balanced build kind of night. There isn't anybody really cheap, but I'd say Craig and Gary Trent Jr. Okay, great. More questions coming in. This is FanDuel single entry ice. Nemhard or Mikic, or somebody else at 5,200 or a bit under that.
I'd roll the dice on Mikic again. I think he's definitely going to have a role. It's a new situation there in Charlotte, so lean into that uncertainty a little bit. Mikic noted. Thank you. Yep. All right, what do we got? DK forward spot. Oh, wow. Oh, okay, same question. That explains it. Raw points, Wemby or Kyrie, or I can have Miles Bridges. Tim, Wemby, Kyrie, or Miles Bridges in raw DK points?
Yeah, so I definitely would say not Bridges.
I would definitely say not Kyrie. So we're done here. It's freaking Wemby.
Okay.
Lock that shit
All right,
in.
let's go Wemby then.
Not to make it more difficult, but I love Miles Bridges tonight.
Oh shit.
Keith always has to make it more difficult.
Yeah. You're not. You wouldn't have voted Kyrie, would you? Because otherwise,
I would not. No, it would be Wemby or Bridges for me. All three of us agree Wemby.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Cool. I like it. What else do we have here? FanDuel Cash is 3v3 for you, Tim. We got about less than 2 minutes until lock. Kyrie, Venus, and Clam Chowder, or Io DeSumo, DeRozan, and John Collins. Clam Chowder would be Crowder.
Venus is Vince Williams, I think, but I'm not. Okay. I have no idea. I'm guessing on that.
Kyrie, Vince Williams, and Crowder, or DeSumo, DeRozan, and Collins.
I'd go the first one.
Ooh, we had to fight through that one. FanDuel GPP, Green or Collins, Ice? Who do you got?
Which Green? Jalen or Draymond, I assume. Probably Draymond or John Collins is the question. Give me John Collins there.
Okay, great. FanDuel single entry Ice, Koulibaly versus KJ Martin.
Both in play. Feel better about KJ Martin's run. I'll lean slightly to Martin.
Okay. DK GPP question again. I need a small forward at 4,400 or less, preferably not named Dunn, unless that's the only name. Small forward 4,400 or less. Ice.
DK, I hope.
Yep, it is.
Okay. Koulibaly's fine. Yeah, it's Koulibaly.
Okay. DK Cash at 5,800. Alex says I'm landing on Aaron Gordon in that spot. Are you okay with that play?
DK Cash, Aaron Gordon.
Mm-hmm. It feels like a last piece kind of thing.
Man,
that's where he's landing.
I guess so. I really don't like it though.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. Hey, Luka or Giannis straight up on DK from Butthole Jenkins. We could hit the lock, but we will get that last question answered. What do you got? You can each pick.
Luka
for me also.
Luka. Yeah. Although I'm a little intrigued, like since the changes on Dallas, are you worried about Luka's productivity, or is he still just like the Luka show with some new faces around him?
He still doesn't come off the court.
Yeah, that helps.
You know what I mean? Like he's so he just plays so much.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's really going to affect him that much.
Okay.
He did play 31 against Oklahoma City. I think that game was well out of hand.
Though, they whooped that ass. Yeah. They won by like 40 or 50, I want to say. Yeah.
Yeah. So, no concerns for me either.
Yeah. Okay. With that, I think we are going to bounce on out of here. Great show, as always, guys. Excellent stuff. Make sure you hit us with a thumbs up on your way out. It's free content. We're trying to keep it that way. And your like and subscribe is the way we can keep this show free. So shout out to you guys for joining, for Ice, for Tim, for our wonderful production crew, always working hard behind the scenes. Guys, we appreciate you. We love you. And we will catch you tomorrow. You have been crunched.